I presume that everybody watching this video is not only familiar with The Simpsons, but the episode Homer at the Bat. The episode where 9 Major League Baseball players joined the Springfield Nuclear Power Plant softball team and they all ran into hijinks, to say the least. There's a reason why it's one of the greatest and most iconic episodes in the near 40-year history of the series. One of the best parts of that episode is, of course, the feud between Mr. Burns and first baseman Don Mattingly. Burns demanded Mattingly shave his sideburns, his non-existent ones. One shaved head later, Burns throws him off the team for failing to shave said sideburns. At least he's better than Steinbrenner. It's a funny gag, but why exactly do I bring it up? What if I told you that something like that happened in real life to Don Mattingly? At first, you're probably thinking this joke is based on that moment, but no, that's not the case. Production for the episode predates the event that occurred, and the script itself was written 2 months prior to the incident in question. As the two sayings go, life imitates art, and The Simpsons can predict the future. Let's start from the beginning. In 1976, New York Yankees owner George Steinbrenner enacted a neatness counts policy for the team, which is now commonly known, at least formally, as the no beards rule. The rule itself forbid Yankees players from having long hair, mutton chops, beards, or high stirrups on uniform socks. The reason why Steinbrenner enacted this no beards rule stems from his military days when he served in the Air Force in the 1950s. Men in the military kept clean shaved, so he brought that tradition over to his club. While the rule has been relaxed starting this year in 2025, all New York Yankees players have to adhere by it. Aside from a handful of exceptions from free agents, notably David Price and Brian Wilson, there's never been any major pushback. No active Yankee has ever refused to play due to the policy, and any player New York acquired that had facial hair shaved it without fuss. Devin Williams is an exception to all of that, but that's a topic for another time. Anyway, while I just said all players kept neat without issue, there's one other exception. It happened to the man mentioned earlier, Don Mattingly, in an incident I like to call Hairgate. I won't get into too much detail about Mattingly himself, but let's just say he was one of the greatest players during his era and one of the most beloved Yankees of all time. His accolades include an MVP award, a batting title, and 9 Gold Gloves. He's a fan favorite in the same vein as Derek Jeter and Aaron Judge. In fact, Mattingly was even named the Yankees captain, a title he earned in 1991 and held until his retirement in 1995. Ironically, 1991 was when the incident in question happened. Throughout his career, Mattingly had a full, but not long, head of hair. In 1991, however, he grew it out into a mullet. Why a mullet specifically, I have no clue. Out of all the hairstyles, that's certainly one of them, but I'm not here to judge players on their appearance choices. The point being, Mattingly's hair was now longer than it was before, and it caused a minor fret in the Yankee clubhouse because it was long enough to violate the neatness counts policy. On August 15, 1991, 34 years ago today, General Manager Gene Michael ordered the first baseman to trim his hair. When Mattingly refused to, the Yankees benched him. Yes, they pulled a Mr. Burns. Not that it would have mattered in the long run. The Yankees entered that day with a 50-62 record, 10.5 games out of first place, with their season all but over with. For what it's worth, Mattingly was one of the few bright spots on that Yankees team, as he was batting over 300 with a solid 70-71 OPS entering that day. Just to emphasize again, Mattingly wasn't a nobody. He was the biggest star on the team, the greatest Yankees player of the past decade, and he's honored by getting benched over hair length. Imagine if the Yankees benched Aaron Judge tomorrow for having long hair. That's essentially the magnitude of the situation. You can see why it was such a big deal. What did the men involved say on this ordeal? Mattingly sarcastically joked that this incident is an opportunity for New York to trade him since he was such a problem. Although, he also said of Gene Michael, maybe he wants an organization full of puppets to do exactly what he wants. I like to get the job done and not worry about petty things. Oh, the reaction from the internet if the Yankee captain said that about Brian Cashman in today's age. Quick side note, I think now is a good time to mention that there were trade rumors surrounding Mattingly back in June of 1991, but both he and the Yankees agreed to wait until the offseason to potentially pursue a trade. While he was never traded, there was at least a small chance that this benching could have been the final straw for Mattingly and his tenure in New York. I can't believe I'm saying it, but slightly long hair almost cost the Yankees their captain. Moving on, Gene Michael called Mattingly a good player and said this whole dispute was being overblown. Can't imagine why he'd say that. The Yankees manager, Stump Merrill, recalled that Mattingly asked him if he was going to be in the lineup for that August 15th game. Merrill asked if he would get a haircut, and when Mattingly said no, Merrill said he's out of the lineup. Merrill said, "If we have rules, you've got to abide by them. Otherwise, why have rules?" Incredible logic from Stump Merrill there. I also should explain that Hairgate runs deeper than just Don Mattingly. He actually was not the only Yankee told to cut their hair, but received the harshest punishment. Reportedly, 3 other players were also told to get haircuts, 2 pitchers and 1 catcher. The 2 pitchers didn't play in the August 15th game, but not due to the hair policy. One of the pitchers, Pascual Perez, was on the disabled list at the time. The other pitcher, Steve Farr, had pitched 3 innings out of relief the previous night, so he was unavailable for that reason. While those 2 didn't play, would you believe that the catcher, Matt Noakes, did play in that August 15th game? Why did Noakes play and not Mattingly? Again, I have no clue, but you can obviously see how that decision has zero logic behind it. Bench your captain, but start your everyday catcher. Speaking of which, if this whole benching situation couldn't get any worse, the MLB Players Association stepped in. Gene Orza, an associate in the union, said on the matter, "All the players will play. I don't believe the Yankees will bench anyone. If they do bench anyone, they're going to be in serious trouble." Orza went on to say he didn't believe the hair policies were valid because they weren't negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement, and the players would likely win the battle against the Yankees. Just when you thought that was it to everything, of course, there's more. Apparently, Gene Michael told Stump Merrill to tell Mattingly about the hair 2 weeks before Merrill actually did. Merrill admitted he mishandled the situation and took responsibility for everything, while Michael said it was a misunderstanding. Specifically, Michael said, "I told Stump he should tell Mattingly about getting the haircut, and if he refused, he shouldn't play. I didn't mean Stump should bench him right away. The penalty was hastily done." To repeat that, Gene Michael told Stump Merrill that Mattingly shouldn't play if he didn't cut his hair. When Merrill benched him, Michael claimed he didn't say that. Once again, brilliant logic there. I can see why the Yankees of the early 90s were a dysfunctional mess. By the way, if anyone's curious, the Yankees won that August 15th game against the Kansas City Royals by a score of 5-1. Go figure. Fortunately for all sides, the tension would dissolve within the next couple of days. Mattingly was back in the lineup the following day on August 16th and received a loud ovation from the Yankee Stadium crowd.
Don Mattingly gets a very large ovation from the fans here, and he still has all his hair.
According to the man himself, the Yankees weren't going to force him to get a haircut, but he'll probably get one anyway, even if he thinks his hair is not out of control. That haircut happened on August 17th, a full inch taken off. Here's a shot of Mattingly 2 days later on August 19th, and honestly, I can barely tell the difference. Either way, 34 years after Hairgate, this remains the only time a Yankees player was punished for violating the neatness counts rule. The time the captain, Don Mattingly, got benched over an inch of hair.